Ейдуард Джеймс Майбридж was an English photographer, known primarily for his early use of multiple cameras to capture motion, and his zoopraxiscope, a device for projecting motion pictures that predated the celluloid film strip that is still used today. Майбридж was born Ейдуард Джеймс Майбридж at Kingston-upon-Thames, England. He is believed to have changed his name at the launch of his photographic career. In 1855, Майбридж arrived in San Francisco and started his career as a publisher's agent and a bookseller. In the late 1860s, Майбридж rapidly became successful as a photographer. He was focusing almost entirely on landscape and architectural subjects. Майбридж began to build his reputation with photos of Yosemite and San Francisco. These images showed the grandeur and expansiveness of the West and were published under the pseudonym Helios. Later, Майбридж photographed some of the U.S. Army's expeditions. Then he was commissioned to photograph for the California Geological Survey and for the Central Pacific Railroad. In 1872, former governor of California Leland Stanford, a businessman and racehorse owner, commissioned Ейдуард Майбридж to use newly invented photographic technology to establish whether a galloping horse ever has all 4 feet off the ground simultaneously. Though legend also includes a wager of up to $25,000, there is no evidence of this. In order to prove Stanford's claim, in collaboration with John Isaacs, the chief engineer for the Southern Pacific Railroad, Майбридж developed a mechanism to set off multiple cameras. 5 years later, Майбридж settled Stanford's question with a photographic negative showing Stanford's racehorse Occident airborne during gallop. By 1878, spurred on by Stanford to expand the experiment, Майбридж successfully photographed a horse in fast motion using a series of 24 cameras. This series of photos is called The Horse in Motion. Stanford later published a book called The Horse in Motion as Shown by Instantaneous Photography, which gave Майбридж scant credit for his work. Майбридж unsuccessfully sued Stanford for this. While working on his Horse in Motion project, Майбридж discovered that his wife Flora had a lover, a Major Harry Larkins. On October 17, 1874, he sought out Larkins, said, "Good evening, Major. My name is Майбридж, and here is the answer to the letter you sent my wife." He then fatally shot the Major. Майбридж was put on trial for the killing, but was acquitted on the grounds that it was justifiable homicide. The inquiry interrupted the horse photography experiment, but not Stanford's support of Майбридж. Stanford paid for his criminal defense. An interesting aspect of Майбридж's defense was the plea of insanity, which was claimed as a result of a head injury that Майбридж sustained during a stagecoach accident. Soon after the trial, his wife Flora died, and Майбридж, thinking that their son was fathered by Larkins, abandoned the boy in an orphanage. As an adult, the boy bore a remarkable resemblance to Майбридж, but the father and the son never reunited. This episode in Майбридж's life is the subject of The Photographer, a 1982 opera by Philip Glass, which is used as a part of the musical background in this podcast. Майбридж continued his photography experiments and later published several photographic sequences. Hoping to capitalize upon the considerable public attention those pictures drew, Майбридж invented the zoopraxiscope, a machine that projected the images so the public could see realistic motion. Ейдуард Майбридж returned to his native England in 1894, published 2 popular books of his work and died on May 8, 1904 in Kingston-upon-Thames, while living at the home of his cousin. This house now has a British Film Institute commemorative plaque on the outside wall. Майбридж was cremated and his ashes interred at Woking. Майбридж's work was revolutionary during his time, and his huge body of work paved the way for early motion pictures. Please enjoy a few of his works.